Okay, hi, welcome back to Spirit Lounge and back into our journey through the Upanishads. This is going to be the last chapter of the Brhad-Aranyaka. So some of you may be glad to know this is the last chapter and we're moving on to the Chandogya Upanisad after this. So we'll crack straight onto this. This is chapter 6 of them all. So we'll just put this on the screen. Okay, everything's working. You should be able to hear me fine. Okay, great. Okay, let's just walk through this one. So this is the last chapter, chapter 6. It goes through the Brhad-Aranyaka, and after this is the Chandogya Upanisad. Again, the Upanisads were written 700 BC. You've all been through this before, so we'll skip through this again. And this is the book that we're going through. Various authors, the translations are all the same pretty much, just their interpretation, which differs. There's not much interpretation in this book. It's just mere translation of the Sanskrit. So the interpretation is our own for the most part. And again, it's got three main Kanda or sections which deal with the hearing, the reflection, and the contemplative meditation upon what's being received, which are what called Kandas. So there's the sravana, the manana, and the upapatti. Okay. Bear with me a moment. A little bit hay fever today. Okay, the first Brahmana, the six bodily functions. I just want to point something out. We're going to get to a point in this particular chapter, which is be open-minded, because remember when it was written. But some of these practices and ways people believe are actually still prevalent in a lot of backwater towns and villages across all of the world. It's not just in the Indian subcontinent. But when we get to that, I'll point it out. Okay, the first Brahmana, the six bodily functions and the importance of life breath. Remember, the six bodily functions are always associated with an aspect of the divine, an aspect of the metaphysical all, and it's used constantly. In the life breath is obviously the prana breath, but also the life breath can be associated with the divine spirit with it, which is the life and the breath within that animates us. So it says here, he who knows the oldest and greatest becomes. Life breath is indeed the oldest and the greatest. He who knows this becomes the oldest and the greatest of his own people, as well as those of whom he wishes so to become. So wishes so to become is those that are elevated, have expanded, have achieved that level of moksha. The life breath is that which he wishes to know and becomes great and becomes the oldest and the greatest through that. Okay, he who knows the most excellent becomes the most excellent. Speech is indeed the most excellent. He who knows this becomes the most excellent, as well as those of whom he wishes so to become. Speech, I believe, is to speak your own truth, but also to cascade knowledge and truth to others, and to speak that which is received, which is what the seers and the gurus and the sages who went over into the forests and came out with their what they were receiving and created what was known as the Upanisads. He who knows the firm basis has a firm basis on uneven ground. The I is the firm basis for the I. One has a firm basis. He who knows this has a firm basis on uneven ground. This is to see reality also with the physical and the non-physical, and the third eye, the chakra between the at the forehead there. Uneven ground is when we're not connected, when we are detached from source. A firm basis is one when we understand the true reality of our true I, or the life breath. Okay, he who knows prosperity attained whatever desire he desires. Is prosperity, which is basically prosperity here is not a physical material matter being prosperity. It's knowledge taught. It's prosperity through the teaching and the receiving of divine knowledge. For in the ear are all these Vedas attained, so you receive knowledge, not only internally, but you've been taught knowledge through the ear. Him who knows this desires is attained. He who knows the abode, the mind indeed is the abode. He who knows this becomes the abode of his own people as well as of other people. The mind is obviously regarded as, you have supermind, you have the metaphysical mind. There's different aspects of all layers of mind. which is the processor of what's being received and helps us understand. Okay, it goes on. He who knows procreation procreates himself with offspring and cattle. So remember, cattle is always known as offspring is children. Many children is regarded as a positive thing. Many cattle, if you own many cattle, calves, farmyard animals in those times, 700 BC, it was a mark of prosperity and abundance in a family. Semen is verily procreated. So it does go into a lot of this semen, procreation, and sexual matters in this last chapter. I'll warn those who are sensitive to these things. Semen is verily procreation. Who knows this procreates himself with progeny and cattle. So it's proper through cattle-owned property. So by semen is meant the organ of generation. So it's talking about sexual organs. Semen comes from that. It's obviously male-orientated, so that's a comment. These vital breaths, disputing among themselves about their self-superiority, went to Brahma and said, which of us is the most excellent, after whose departure this body is thought to be worse off? So it's actually these, I think this is referring to those who have achieved those vital breaths, i.e. understanding of their divine spiritual breath, the divine breath, regard themselves as having superiority and grow to Brahma, which is absolute consciousness, and regard themselves as most excellent after they depart the body, the vessel. The organ of speech departed, and having remained absent for a year, came back. So I would say what this means potentially would be knowledge, received and also imparted upon others. Absence, so that could be a period of ignorance, came back and said, how have you been able to live without me? They said, so this is talking to the group, dumb and not speaking but breathing, seeing with the eye, hearing with the ear, knowing with the mind, procreating with the semen. With this we have lived. Then speech entered in, so knowledge came back in. So they were basically living material matter being lives, and then enlightenment re-enters through knowledge, through the mind, or consciously perceived and processed through the mind, because it's obviously received through the spirit, through the heart space. The eye departed and came back and said, how have you been able to live without me? They said, as the blind, not seeing with the eye, but breathing, speaking, hearing, knowing, procreating. Thus we have lived. Then the eye entered, so we're able to see again that which is real. Okay, the mind departed, came back and said, how? So remember, this is a building up of the previous passages. The mind departed, came back and said, how have you been able to live without me? They said, as the stupid, not knowing, but breathing, speaking with speech, seeing with the eye, hearing, procreating. Then the mind entered in. So passage back to non-ignorance restated itself. Okay, then semen, the organ of generation, departed, came back and said, how have you been able to live without me? They said, as the important non-procreating with semen, but breathing, speaking, seeing, hearing, knowing. Then semen entered in, so they weren't procreating. It seems to suggest, which I'm not sure that is the truth in this true interpretation of that passage. Speech said, which I am most excellent, in that you are the most excellent. A firm basis, said the eye, which I am prosperity. The ear, I am an abode, said the mind. I am procreation, said semen. If such I am, what is my food? What is my dwelling? Whatever there is here. He who knows that as the good of breath, by him nothing is eaten that is not food, nothing received that is not food. Wise men who are versed in the Vedas when they are about to eat. This is talking about knowledge. When the food is referring to spiritual knowledge, spiritual knowing, through the study of the Vedas, through what is received spiritually and esoterically, through practice, through dedicating one's life, through the third part of meditative contemplation. Remember those three khandas. This is what this is saying. And through the mind, through the eye, through the ear. Eye one sees, through the mind one processes, through the ear one receives. Through procreation one passes on through progeny and receives cattle as abundance, and food is knowledge. Okay, second Brahmana, life and death. Sevta, which who's a person. This then goes on to a discussion that this individual had with another king. Went up to an assembly and went to Pravahana, the king. The king said, "Have you been taught by your father?" So he's asking, like you remember, the fathers always teach the sons Vedic knowledge, spiritual knowledge, as a third phase of the father's passage, the meditative stage, and the first phase of a child, which is the sravana phase, which is the hearing phase. Remember, and so. He said, yes, the king asked, do you, and the king proceeded to ask a series of questions. Do you know how people here on departing life separate in different directions? No, he said. Do you know how they come back into this world? No, he said. Do you know why the yonder world is not filled up with the many who again and again go here? No, he said. Do you know the means of access to the path leading to the gods, or of the one leading to the fathers? So the fathers is ancient scriptures, remember, and the deities are the gods. Ancient scriptures or sources of them, which is what the fathers are, the Vedic sources, the sources of the Vedas, which is what the fathers mean. I have heard of the two paths for men, and the one that leads to fathers, one that leads to the gods. By these two all that lives moves on. There is between Father Heaven and Mother Earth. So he's asking all these questions. The child didn't know. The king gave him an invitation to stay. Instead, the child, he went to his father and said, the questions that fellow of the princely class asked, not a single one do I know. What are these questions? The father said. What are these questions? The father said, whatsoever I know myself, I have already told you. Let us go there. So they go back to the king. As students of sacred knowledge, you may go, sir, said the son. Then Gautama went forth to where the king was. So Gautama is, I don't think this is the Buddha, because Buddha is also called a Gautama, but it could be someone of a similar state of awareness or consciousness or being. So I'm not sure this is the Buddha, because the timing probably wouldn't be right, because the Buddhism wasn't written at this time. So, not from what I recall. Gautama went forth to where the king was. The king brought him a seat. The king said, a boon we offer to the Reverend Gautama, the father or the Buddha. I'm not sure it is the Buddha. The boon is a helpful meaning or a teaching. The king was saying he was waiting for the boon to be offered. So he's offering something helpful or something useful to the Gautama. Then he said, please tell me speech you uttered in the presence of the young man. So basically passing on the teachings. King said, Gautama, among divine boons, he said, well known that I have abundance. Abundance means knowledge. In regard to that which is the abundant, the infinite, the unlimited, O Gautama, you should seek it in. I come to you, sir, as a pupil. So there's a side note here saying the Tirtha, which is a place of pilgrimage generally in the bank of a sacred stream or near a holy spring. So this must be a footnote, but I didn't see that word. The word was probably in the Sanskrit, which was translated. And according to tradition, seekers belonging to higher castes have become pupils to teachers of lower castes by living with them. So higher castes, it seems to say in this time or age, didn't tend to go into the forests, hide away and seek esoteric knowledge. It tended to be those of not the princely realm. So it seems that those of the upper princely realms or castes seem to seek knowledge from those who did go into forests and inspire themselves. The king said, please do not be offended with us even. I shall teach you, said Gautama, that yonder world, the sun itself is its fuel. The rays are its smoke, the day is the flame, the quarters, which is the space, are the coals. The king Soma moon arises. Pariana is the god of rain. The year is its fuel, the clouds its smoke, lightning the flame, thunderbolt the sparks. This fire the gods offer the king Soma. This world, earth itself, is its fuel, fire, the smoke, night, the flame, moon, the coals. It's effectively saying that he'll teach him about all of these aspects of the all. Remember, they associated a lot of metaphors, created deities and archetypes and demigods and idols with the cosmos, and associated natural things of the natural realm such as fire, wind, the rain, the earth, the moon, the sun, the planets, the stars, things of the natural world as archetypes and aspects of the divine. This is how things were translated and understood. So as a footnote, this world, the abode where all creatures are born, experience the result of their past work, which consists of action. Basically talking about karma. It's referring to karma here. Causes, actions creates karma, but actually it's the intention behind, before the action is even formed, is the attachment of karma. It's the intention. Not always necessarily the action and the outcome always is associated, but the intention is always with us. Okay, the person man is fire. The open mouth itself is its fuel, vital breath, the smokes, speech, the flame, the eye, the coals, the ear, the sparks. The woman is a sexual organ. Now it starts to go into the sexual part of this. Is its fuel, her hairs, the smoke, the vulva, the flame. One inserts the coals, the pleasurable feelings, the sparks. In this fire, the gods offer semen. So this is where it starts to get into the sexual matters. This is a ritual list, goes into ritual ceremony as we go through this chapter. Okay, so now it goes into this part of sexual intercourse, which is part of a ritual. It's all, remember, everything's a ritual or a sacrifice or a ceremony, backed off by hymns or rites, pronounced with certain vibration of words, to vibrate frequency, to draw the etheric realm closer. This is what this if you look at the whole Aranyaka Upanisad, this is what it reflects. Okay, sexual intercourse is treated as a kind of soma sacrifice, so it's to the moon, where the household fire is identified with the wife, so the sexual intercourse with the wife, the fire of the act of intercourse with the wife. The sacrificial fire is the divine womb into which one pours himself and from which a solar rebirth ensues. So this is where the son is born, a rebirth is born from the impregnation or the entering of the soma, which is the vulva of the woman. See, it's all metaphorical. Everything's used as a metaphor for things, for creation, for life, for how things have manifest from the all, the divine all. Okay, they carry him to the offered fire. His fire itself becomes the fire. I think this is the passion. Out of this offering, the person having the colour of light arises. So this is what is produced from sexual intercourse, I think. Having colour of light radiantly exceeding bright, having been purified by the rites performed from conception to cremation. So this explanation of what that means. This who know this as such, meditate with faith in the forest on the truth, passes into the light. Then a person consisting, born of mind, goes to those regions of lightning and leads them to the worlds of Brahman. In those worlds, Brahma, they live for long periods. Of these there is no return. So it's saying that moksha is where they go into the realm of Brahman, which is divine absolute consciousness. We all go into the realm of absolute consciousness. It just depends whether we've achieved that state of absolute consciousness whilst in the physical realm. Determines our decision to then have to return for other things. Okay, and a footnote, consisting, born of mind, is a person living in the world of Brahman. Sent forth, created by Brahma, is the mind. Okay, so it goes on to the sacrificial parts of this now. Sacrificial offerings, charity and austerity conquer the world. So it's talking about the importance of those times of sacrifice, of ceremony, of ritual and rites, and hymns and prayers, and certain words hummed in a certain frequency. It's all part of this practice. into smoke of a cremation fire. So it's talking about a ritual around a fire. From the night into the half moon of the waning moon. Reaching the moon, they become food. There the gods, as they say to King Soma. When that passes away from them, they pass forth into this space, from space into air, from air into rain, from rain into the earth. Reaching the earth, they become food, offered in the fire of man. So these are things from the earth offered as ritual and sacrifice into this ceremony or ritual around a fire. They are born in the fire of woman. To other worlds, thus they rotate. So this is talking about the cycle of rebirth. Those who do know these two ways become insects. Whatever there is here that bites. So the footnote here is this Brahmana. They all agree that there is a repeated return to rebirth in forms determined by the deeds of the past. It's not a form determined. So remember that in the past, in these times, there was a belief that reincarnation, if you did certain things, you'd turn into an insect or an animal or a dog or something inferior than a human because you were bad in life. That's not the case. Your form is determined by the state of consciousness in which you're able to express a spirit. If you're a human, you'll always be human. You don't regress into forms that further limit the expression of the spirit. This actually isn't true. This is a dogma still held in Hinduism today. But this is coming back from 700 BC. This isn't the case. You'll always become human. The experience of your life in which you come into will be determined by the choices you make, by the akashic clothing which you have to still wear as you come back in. This process will continue until saving knowledge is attained. That's absolutely. This is moksha. This is divine knowledge, which is called saving knowledge, which frees the soul from the necessity of rebirth. Okay, the third Brahmana. Let's continue with that. The means for the attainment of a great wish. Okay, whoever may wish, I would attain greatness in the northern course of the sun or on an auspicious day of the half month. Having performed the Upanisad, which is a ceremony on the 12th day of the month, you collect a dish made of wood and some figs and some butter and other things, and you perform a ceremony. So, collect in a dish made of wood of a sacred fig tree, all herbs, fruits purified by melted butter to all those gods unto you who spitefully slay the desires of a person. I offer them a share, so it's cast into the fire, it's cast into the ceremony. Let them being satisfied me with all desires. Hail to that deity who turns out spiteful under your protection. Saying, I support all, I offer this stream of melted butter. Hail. And this is now basically a ceremony kind of written out. I've not written it all because it gets to the point where there's no point for me or any purpose for this video to do so, but I'll continue to read. I did as much as I thought was useful. I did actually more than I thought was useful, but we carry on. To the others hail, and offer an oblation. This is an offering. An oblation is an offering to the vital breath. So he's first of all offering to the spirit, and then he offers an oblation into the fire. In the fire, and pours the remainder of the potion that's just been created with the figs, the fruits, the butter, the herbs, and so forth. Remainder of the book's portion. To speech, he hails to the speech. To the firm basis, hail, and offers another offering. To the eye, hail. To the ear, hail. Offers an oblation in the fire to the abode. Hail, again, offers another offering into the fire. To the mind, to procreation, hail. He offers an oblation into the fire and pours. To the semen, hail, which is procreation, offers an oblation into the fire. So there's lots of, I think in the Upanisads, we're going to find a lot of ceremonial rites, practices and ritual explained. I don't think it's going to give as much what we would normally perceive as to be spiritual insights and knowledge. There's a lot of metaphorical use of nature, of cosmos, of things and of bodies to explain things. And it's excessive, and it also has a lot of ritual in it. I've noticed that in this first Upanishad, and I have a feeling that it's the theme is going to continue through the others. So let's see. Okay, to fire, hail, an oblation in fire. To the moon, hail, he offers an oblation in the fire, and pause, offers an oblation. To the atmosphere, he offers another oblation in the fire and pause. To the sky, heaven, which is regarded as heaven, hail to the heaven, offers another oblation. To the earth, atmosphere, and sky, hail, offers another offering into the fire. To the Brahmana hood, which is then going into those that study the Vedas or go into the forest, as seers, sages, and gurus, and so forth. Hail, he offers an oblation. To the Ksatra hood, which is power. Remember, it's power. Hail, saying this, he offers to the oblation in the fire. In the past, to the past, hail, and he offers another oblation, and pours the potion into the fire further. To the future, hail, and offers another offering into the fire. To the universe, and offers another, and then to Brhad-Aranyaka, which is the deity of creation, and offers offering to her, or him, or it. Saying this, he offers an oblation into the fire and pours the remainder in the mixed potion into the fire. They do this actually at weddings, in Hindu weddings, which I actually did go through once. And lots of ceremonies are done around a fire. And there's lots of butter, there's lots of fruits, there's lots of things of the earth, there's water, there's flowers, there's petals, there's many objects, and they're cast into the fire in such a ritual ceremony, either to bless a house during a wedding, during a funeral, during any kind of ceremony. This is the kind of thing that occurs, or the kind of ceremonial acts around a fire, but so obviously different for different reasons. This is for a great wish, of course. Then he touches it, the mixed portion, saying, "You are the moving as breath." Moving is the spirit which moves, attains, animates. Burning as fire, you are the full. The fullness is the absolute. As the sky, steadfast. As the sky, one resort. As the earth, you are the sound, which is hidden, that is made during the sacrificial ceremony. So this is another word which is pronounced in a vibration. They loudly chant, which is sung by the Udgathas priest. Remember the previous chapters? There were many different types of priests. You are recited, you are food, as the moon, you are light, as the fire, you are that which all things merge. Then he sips it, saying, on that adorable light, the winds blow sweetly for the righteous. May the herbs be sweet unto us. Let us meditate on the divine glory. Night and day, earth be sweet. Heaven sweet to us, atmosphere, hail, may he inspire, which is called illumine, give knowledge, he being the divine, our understanding. He repeats the whole Sravati hymn, or the Gayatri mantra even. In the morning he worships the sun, saying of the quarters, which is space, of the quarters of heaven, which is the spaces in heaven above, you are one lotus flower. And the chapter continues with more and more ritual text, which I didn't see any purpose in it even discussing any further. So the fourth Brahma is the procreation ceremony. So this is where it goes heavily into the sexual intercourse kind of things. And there's a passage in here which is going to not resonate with anyone. But I wrote it anyway. I added it regardless, because we don't want to sanitize things, so it helps us understand how things were discussed and understood back then. But some of this is still practiced today in backwater towns and villages all over the world, in countries all over the world, and not just non-Western societies. Okay, so procreation ceremonies. The earth is the essence of all these beings. Of earth, the essence is water. Of water, the essence is plants. So from water comes plants. Of plants, the essence is flowers. And from flowers is fruits. From fruits is the man, and then from the man is the semen, or the procreative act for. Brhad-Aranyaka, the creative deity, thought within himself, come, let me make a firm basis, abode for him. So he created a woman. He created her, he revered her below, which is her procreative parts. He stretched out for himself that which projects. And that means his his own semen or procreative organ, which with that he impregnated her. Her lower part is the sacrificial altar. Her hair is the sacrificial grass, her skin the soma press, the moon press. The two labia of the vulva are the fire in the middle. The world of him who performs the Vajrapaya, which is the ceremony of fertility and strength, practices sexual intercourse. He turns the good deeds of the woman to himself, but he practices sensual intercourse. His good deeds women turn into themselves. So these passages. So this is a note from the author, and I kind of wanted to put this in to further explain what they're trying to say here. These passages indicate the intimate connection between the Atharva Veda and the Upanisads. Some practices in the latter are created in the manner of the Atharva Veda. So in Atharva Veda, it seems to may have a lot of sexual ceremonies and procreative ceremonies. They include even love charms to compel a woman to yield for love. So there's lots of rites and charms and spells. This reminds me of the time when there was a lot of worship of those things that lived above, the earth plane, the aspects of nature, aspects of man, the limbs of man, the cosmic bodies above, deities, and then there was a form of also pagan ceremony in some faiths. So the Upanisads is not void of that. It uses it as it sees procreative act, creating new life as a divine thing. So it's creating a ceremony to celebrate it, as with many things. And this is how it's done. Okay, charms to prevent conception or bring it about when desired. So I've known people to go to India when they weren't able to conceive to a sage or a seer who actually performed a ceremony like this for procreation, i.e. to create new life when they couldn't give birth, and then they came back actually and had two girls. So you can make what you wish with that. Even here, the knowledge motive is dominant. The sexual act is explained as a kind of ritual performance, the elements of which are defined with the parts of a woman's body. We are told that is a man practices sex intercourse with the knowledge of this. He gains the world as great as he who sacrifices with the Vajrapaya rite and takes to himself the merit of the women. But is he practicing it without knowledge? Women take themselves his merit. So effectively saying that those who have sex through the fact that it's through more Vedic knowledge and that it's a need for creating life rather than lustful desires, then they take the goodness from that act. Otherwise, the goodness of the act doesn't stay with the man, it goes to the woman, which again is a very old way of thinking. Okay, many mortal men, brahmanas by descent, go forth from this world impotent and devoid of merit. So this is really talking about those who are physically minded, physically based, attached to the matter realm. Namely, those who practice sexual intercourse without knowing this, i.e. knowing the Vedas, having spiritual awareness. If even this much semen is spilled of one asleep or of one awake, then he should touch, recite whichever semen of man has spilt on earth, flowed to the plants. Let vigor come to me again. Let the fire and the altars be found again. It's kind of a convoluted passage. Now, if one should see himself, the reflection in the water, he should recite the hymn, "In me may the gods bestow lustre, vigor, fame, wealth, and merit." If she does not grant him his desire, so this is where it shows the time and the age. If she does not grant him his desire, he should buy her with presents. So, entice her with presents. If she still does not grant him his desire, he should beat her with a stick of his hand and overcome her, which is basically talking about rape. I should take away your glory, thus she becomes devoid of glory, which is talking about forcibly asking someone to have sex with you. Now this happens still, this kind of thing. If one desires a woman with the thought, may she enjoy love with me, after inserting the member in her, joining the mouth, stroking her lower part, he should recite, you that have come from every limb, who have sprung from the heart, the woman whom one desires, with the thought, may she not conceive after inserting the member, with power, with semen, I claim the semen from you. I'm not really sure what that's trying to say, but it's a kind of a it's trying to suggest performing the act with love and to the knowledge of a higher, greater things. Okay, now the woman whom one desire with the thought, may she conceive after inserting the member in her, the power with the semen, I deposit semen in you, this she becomes pregnant. There's just more of this. And again, it talks about this footnote, spells and incantation were familiar practice in the age when the Upanisads were composed. Absolutely. Okay, more. When the monthly sickness comes upon one's wife, this is talking about the period time when the woman has a period, for 3 days, menstrual cycle, she should not drink from a bronze cup, and a low caste man or a woman should not touch her. Again, evidence of the time. If one wishes that his son be born with someone wants someone with a fair complexion or a brown complexion or a dark complexion, they should study the Vedas, cook with rice and milk and butter, and perform the ceremony in a certain way. If he wishes to have a daughter who should be born, who would be learned, should cook with rice and a sesamum and eat it. A son who is learned, famous, who wants to will become a speaker, study the Vedas, have cooked rice, meat, and eat it, with butter. Toward morning, after having prepared clarified butter, make an offering to the fire and hail the radiant sun, the creator of truth. Hail. So it's all ceremonial to have what one wishes to have through the procreative act. Male, female, type of male, female, skin color, and blah, blah, blah. So what he does say, evidently meat was permitted on certain occasions, a point that this permission was due to local conditions. So traditionally, actually, Hinduism and anything in the Indian subcontinent was pretty much vegan. Didn't any kind of animal life at all, animal product whatsoever, apart from milk. But it seems to say meat in this particular practice was permitted if it was, of course, permitted by the local custom. Okay, the fifth Brahmana, the accession of teachers and pupils. So this was very short. It just listed again, like a previous chapter, many sages and teachers who are passed on teaching to another, and then it names that teacher, it passes on to another, names that teacher, and it went on for 3 pages actually. So I just added the footnote here saying that teachers are named after their mothers because the mother holds the important place in the training of children. And it just listed teachers passing on to other teachers, which I wasn't seeing any purpose or point in even repeating, really. So that takes us to the end of that Aranyaka Upanisad. I hope you enjoyed that. There are certain things we can take from it. For me, it's a lot of the nature of when it was written. It's very, very contrasting to the Gnostic texts, which were written almost 1,000 years later. So things change, and obviously the concept of things change and how they're described a change. So again, remember whatever practice you're doing, it is your own practice. Become that which you seek to become. The ascension to moksha or autogenese will only be yours, and it's transformative because you need to practice it as part of life, not just when, as these ceremonies would suggest, when we want something. Okay, so let's put this back on here. I just want to say thank you again all for listening to this. We are going to start a brand new Upanishad, the Chandogya Upanisad, which is about 150 pages long in this book. We'll try to go that fairly rapidly, but I hope you enjoyed this part of it, and we'll embark upon the next video. But again, thank you again for your time. I do appreciate it, and please send me comments. Tell me what you're thinking of all of this. Is it helping you? Is this useful? Is my channel useful? Are the other videos useful? Because motivates me to continue to do this when I hear from you guys. So thank you so much again, and have a great day, and God bless you all until next time. Thank you.